Welcome, disc golf fans, to the TruBank Des Moines Challenge, presented by Discraft, here in Des Moines, Iowa, a Disc Golf Pro Tour Elite Series event. Happy to be out here, a gem of a course that we have here. I'm Nathan Queen, joined by Andrew Fish.
It's great to be here, Nathan. Gorgeous design here at Packard Park, and we have heat and not a lot of clouds, mostly sun here on Friday. A little bit of different stuff throughout the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, and a hot card here. Ricky Wysocki, Ben Callaway, Calvin Heimburg, and Robert Burridge pushing Simon Lizotte to a playoff in last year's event.
You see the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings. We're going to show you the top 20. By this point, a lot of folks have kind of resolved about where they're sitting. You can start to take some of these people seriously through the season.
Yeah, you see scrolling down to the bottom, there's a few little gaps breaking in there in the points, so trying to distance themselves. Getting into the bag checks, Ricky Wysocki has got that dagger, and we'll see a harp a lot for the upshots. And I see Enforcer, some felons out here most likely, but ripping on the rives for those long shots.
Ben Callaway, sponsored by Discraft, going to be putting with the Roach. You see a variety of zones for his upshot and some hybrid mid-range duties as well. For his drivers, he'll be throwing Athena for his 7 speeds, and then Forces and Nukes for the big shots.
And Calvin Heimburg putting with the KC Pro AVR. Going to see some Rock 3s and probably Toro on the mid-range category. I assume a lot of Eagle, Draco, and maybe some Thunderbird out here. Might see some Destroyer if he does need some distance.
And Robert Burridge, as we noted, sponsored by Lone Star Discs, putting with the Cash. A couple of different mid-range types there, ranging and stabilities, and his signature Tour Series Mockingbird for his fairway drivers, and Seguins and Bayonets for long stuff.
And straight into hole 1, 795-foot par 4. Gonna see right-hand hyzers around this tree to the right, just a spike in the middle of the fairway there. Hopefully you'll then have about 360 in or so for your approach shot. There is a little hobbit hole, as they call it here on the right, that does play casual.
Put your hands together for Ricky Wysocki.
Ricky Wysocki, you see the neck towel to stay cool. Going to be ripping a big backhand hyzer. And Nathan, I think a big key on this opening par 4 is don't take a 7.
Yeah, it is possible to do. If you hang it out too wide, trying to miss the OB on the left side, you'll be very early right. And easy to end up with another OB stroke when you're that far back.
Ben Callaway, been competing in Des Moines Challenges for over a decade, the 2019 Des Moines Challenge champion. And he's not quite from Des Moines, east in Davenport, but they love him here, Iowa boy. This looks like a nuke. Been known for very big but smooth power. You see a flatter line than what Rick had taken.
Yeah, just around that tree. Still doesn't push that new OB on the left side.
Third on the card from Safety Harbor, Florida. Put your hands together for Calvin Heimburg.
Calvin Heimburg, currently the leader in the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings for 2023.
Yeah, I don't think he's really let go of that so far this year.
No, he grabbed hold real early and has only increased his lead throughout the last several events.
He's hugging that tree, going to end up catching some branches. Still fights through, but a long way to the basket from there.
Yeah, unusually sloppy from Calvin.
Texas, please welcome Robert Burridge.
And Robert Burridge, last year's runner-up, earns the privilege of this feature card spot.
Also has some big power. Makes it look pretty smooth. This is going to be a good shot right out there into the middle of the fairway.
Yeah, getting up towards the corner as the fairway breaks to the right.
Yeah, he actually stayed a little farther right than center. That could open up the forehand, makes it a bit shorter if he wants to go that way. Calvin heading towards that hobbit hole.
And that's kind of a common aim point. You just rip it at the cluster of trees short and right of the basket. Calvin gets about a circle's edge putt. Callaway going to follow the fairway with a forehand, but never swings quite back enough.
Yeah, just a bit out wide. Looks like he may have been playing for that. It didn't look like too aggressive of a line, or that he tried to throw it too hard. Ricky definitely going to be more aggressive towards the green from here.
Heiser release. And that is easy money for Mr. Wysocki.
That's how you want to draw it up. Backhand Heiser, forehand Heiser. And we got our first whisker tickler.
Yeah, absolutely. Burridge going to follow that with a forehand of his own. And this is dying early. Kind of leans up against one of the corner trees.
Yeah, nice of it to stay on the edge of that tree rather than tucking behind it. Should be able to straddle out. Been coming up just a bit short. This did play as the hardest hole on the course today. We saw 23% of the field birdie, with Calvin Heimburg coming up just short of one of those. And 23% also with bogey or above, with some doubles and triples in there.
Yeah, it can stack up on you pretty quickly. So, looks like we're going to get 3 pars and then the Rickster for a tap in. Something to keep an eye on. Ben told me that his forehand had been really solid over the last couple weeks, so maybe that was part of his choice in going forehand on the second shot. Hole 2, another par 4 at 753 feet. We are going to throw an out-of-bounds carry back to the fairway as it breaks left. You need to beat this row of trees, and there is out-of-bounds on the long side as well. Basket kind of perched on a right-to-left slope with some guardian trees around Circle 2's edge. Priority number 1, get the ball inbounds here.
With that, like I said on the first tee, that righty Heiser is gonna be your main play here. And Rick could have done without those branches, but should be in the open enough for his second shot.
Callaway going to play a little bit more of a Heiser flip. This is pushing long of the tree line. Not by a whole lot, but he gets ton of distance there. He'll be inside 300 feet for his approach shot.
May have trickled low enough to have some of those branches in play. May have to make him swing it wider, but also could be clean. Couldn't quite tell.
Yeah, being high on the hill, as Calvin is doing, is ideal because it opens up all of the angles to what you want to get in.
Yeah, and he's found a pretty flat spot also, where his run-up should be flat rather than on a little side hill, which can affect angles if you're not well practiced at it.
And Burridge, this is early. Does drop safe, but well back on the fairway. He's going to have to go. I think this is a Seguin. Very overstable distance driver.
Wow.
Big power.
What a shot. Just a little flick of the wrist there to get that through. Plenty of power to get it to turn over. Rick, not quite as much height on this one, and it's going to skip right up into the wood chips. He's going to start his round with 2 park jobs, 2 replays. This Gatekeeper replay here.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing that makes Rick's putting stats look really good. You know he's going to make that one. Heimburg also going to go to the forehand. That does play nicer with the slope, Nathan.
It does indeed. Going to minimize many skips that you get here. He does catch the wood chip, skip a little more than you usually would, but is going to maintain inside circle 1.
Yeah, pretty lush grass everywhere here on the Packard Park course. Callaway, this is staying low on the hill, does get a little extracurricular down towards the wood line, but has a clear putt from circle 1's edge.
First circle one look for Ben. Quite a bit uphill and just never quite had the height on it.
It's kind of frustrating to squander the ideal tee shot. As Heimburg going to do the same.
Yeah, that's 2 for 2, a bit low for Calvin. His other putt was a little more obstructed, but not quite what we're used to seeing. Robert Burridge looking to start his day off, get his first birdie.
And on the board, really good recovery shot from being out of position. Makes a birdie out of it.
50% of the field was able to get the birdie on this hole today. That, it is, I don't know. I didn't think it was that easy of a hole. That's pretty incredible.
I think that's only happening in ideal conditions like today.
Hole 3, 320-foot downhill par 3 with a kind of this late gap at the end is pretty difficult to get the angle right. Ideally, I think it's backhand putter or mid-range to actually hit that line exactly. The forehand, you're going to see get some skips like that and go through the trees late, but probably not the actual gap that you're looking for.
Yeah, I think if you throw the pure gap with a forehand, it's funneling you right towards the water. Burridge, he's going to have to rely on a skip here and gets tagged down near circle's edge. But I really appreciate that the tournament director and course maintainers heard the player feedback from last year that this wasn't quite a fair gap, and they took out an appropriate number of trees so that you can get inside the circle reliably.
Ben Callaway taking advantage of some of those trees being gone.
I guess.
Catching one and kicking the inside circle one. And yes, I do agree with you. I didn't throw it last year, but it was definitely much tighter. Had some more trees that you couldn't see. Calvin catching that lush grass. That was moving pretty quickly. But he is able to stick it.
Yeah, you see he fooled our catch cam who tried to continue panning past the basket.
Yeah, if you just a bit short as you hear the hive on 5 over there.
Yeah, little Raz on Burridge. Wysocki able to convert.
He's hungry early. Going to go ahead and grab himself a turkey.
And Ben Callaway, center putt. Good correction from the previous hole. And Venny for an easy one, too.
Yeah, everybody on the card has a birdie now. Still no bogeys.
Hole 4, a pretty intimidating tee shot and water carry. If you want to look slick, you can get 3 different t-shirt designs at gatekeepermedia.com. That way, you can look your best to play your best on hole 4. If you don't make it inbounds, even going out the backside, you have to go automatically to a drop zone. 472 feet. This is within the power range for everybody. But it's going to require a little bit of angle control and distance control.
Yeah, and you really have to trust your disc out to the right. Oh, and Ricky has gone long OB, pretty close to the basket, but he's going to have to take that way back. He landed where the old drop zone used to be, where it gave you a chance to save par. Now you've probably got a 120-foot shot across the water.
Yeah, pretty much no chance to save par. Callaway, this is right at the basket. And going to come up short.
Yeah, he will be throwing from the same spot as Ricky.
Trying to pin this is a pretty delicate play because the basket no more than 15 feet away from the water's edge. Heimburg drifting to the left side.
Yeah, it looks like that may have been intentional, not really tempting that basket too much, and if he pulls it, maybe he'll get circle's edge, but maybe looking for circle 2 right there.
And Burridge going to play a little force over. This will come back. And he's pretty familiar with that stump, as I understand it.
That's some good ground play right there.
Good little check to inside the circle. Wysocki going to play a little pitch, nose up floater to the left.
And that's about what you want. He was definitely trying to run that, but if you don't make it, you definitely want to miss all of it. A very good opportunity here to hit something and roll OB again.
Yeah, I don't wish it on anybody. Here's Heimburg. This is kind of a bonus. You see the wind blowing and the slope. And that's the hazard.
Yeah.
I hate that you called it, Nathan.
I didn't mean it. Well, I didn't mean for it to happen right afterwards.
Yeah, if you could just speak into existence some aces, birdies, that sort of thing. Burridge going to card himself a birdie. Nicely done. Gets himself to 2 under.
Yeah, which is now going to be tied for the lead on the card.
As everybody else fixing to take a bogey.
Yeah, Calvin now. That was definitely a much longer putt, but has hit the cage on the first 3. No fun.
So he'll do a little bit of fishing in the pond to try to recover that putter.
Yeah, and speaking of aces, we do have an opportunity here on hole 5, 330-foot par 3 island hole. The OB line in the back is a bit pushed into the woods, so pretty hard to reach that. Pretty standard shot with the wind down. You expect to get this hole. If you don't, you're pretty upset.
And a modest but enthusiastic high V hive here on hole 5. Really appreciate the support from the local Des Moines community coming out and hollering at us.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff. I, for one, do enjoy a rowdy crowd.
This needs to hurry back over the hay bales, and it will for Robert Burridge.
I guess he's not quite as sure as we are that was in bounds.
There is a line drawn on the inside of the hay bales.
Yeah, it'd be tough to... I don't think you could be inside them and be out of bounds. So Ricky gonna definitely try to not go as wide here.
More hyzer to start. Is an ace run of some sort. Pushes into the back wall.
Yeah, depending on how far back that got, could be a little tricky stance. But shouldn't be too much of an issue there. Then Callaway gonna go with a backhand. There is also a hyzer line over here. Just got to miss this one early bush. Oh, and another ace line there. Also going to be in that back wood line, putting down towards the water.
Initially, I thought that little wind lift was going to help Ben Callaway. Seems like he had thrown it just fine himself. Heimburg swinging it wider, a little lower. Does get the same kind of lift.
Look how stable. That came back nicely. I definitely thought that looked pulled, but right on line with the basket there. Gonna have the closest putt of the group.
And that elevated basket kind of changes the plane for Robert Burridge. Callaway, good conversion.
Yeah, nice solid putt.
When you are on that high side of the basket, it makes it almost level.
Almost level, but big drop off behind it. It's definitely visual.
Rick finds a stance. It's a little awkward to get this swing right, Nathan.
It is. But he has done it many times before. Made it look pretty easy. Really difficult for me to get a flat putt off from a knee. It ends up with more hyzer. You see how he kind of adjusted his wrist there right at the end to make it come out flat.
Yeah, very fingery to make that work.
Oh, yeah, I can tell.
Hole 6, 633 feet, a par 4. The tee pad points you directly at the out of bounds on the left side, so you need to throw something that moves from left to right. The wood line is not out of bounds until very late here. The basket tucked to the right and pretty blind. The closer you are to the left side out of bounds, the better your angle in. Wysocki just going to crunch a forehand way out there. That'll leave him inside 200 feet inside 250 or so for sure.
Yeah, and a pretty good angle. Should have to go, you kind of got to go high, I think, from where he's at. Hard to get any skip because of the lush grass out here.
Callaway going to play a turnover with a fairway driver. And that's in business. You don't need to do anything special on this tee shot. Just get it in.
And looking like an eagle out of Calvin here. Also just a nice smooth shot. Got a little bit more carry there at the end. Gonna be at a similar distance to what Ricky got, I believe. And farther left. Should be a good angle in.
And Burridge playing a little bit more of a force over. This is starting to flex out, but plenty of real estate up there.
Yeah,
And the
turn
hill
that cameraman.
helping check him. And he will be pointed directly at the gap.
Yeah, he might be able to see the pin with a step or two.
It's pretty rare. Callaway, this is looking a little hugged inside.
Yeah.
Does filter through. He may have something from an obstructed stance.
If you can, you really want to push something kind of nose up and flat around this corner. Yeah. This is a little better angle here from Calvin.
And I actually think that a clockwise spin, throwing a backhand, especially when you're closer to the wood line as Ricky is, kind of makes the approach into the green optimal. The forehand, it's hard to get your height and your width correct.
Yeah, and Ricky did get that nose up kind of flat that you were looking for, but didn't have the width on that one, like you mentioned, as Robert just able to kind of chop a forehand in there far enough down the fairway. Doesn't have to worry about the height too much. Should be an easy birdie.
Wysocki tries to run from near circle two's edge. We'll have a comeback putt.
And there is OB inside of this wood line on the right. It's not quite right on the edge of the wood line. Got to get in there a little bit.
Heimburg tucks in low left, gets himself a birdie.
Yeah, and that could get Calvin rolling. That's the first putt. You know, he's got some birdies on the round, but that's the first putt that he's made for birdie. So could start getting on a roll now. As Ricky's aggression from a circle two look that would have been pretty difficult to make is going to bite him a little bit on this one. As he went into the bushes behind and unable to make the comebacker.
Yeah, the rare unforced error. Ricky unable to cover up the putt for three. And Robert Burridge with about the easiest birdie anyone's going to see on this hole, I think.
The Challenger is consistent not only on the putting green, but also throwing as an approach disc. With the Challenger, you're getting a really straight flight, whether it be 5 feet or 120 feet. You can just really spin it and trust that it's just gonna hold right where you aim.
I just think the plastic is very premium. It's a high quality material. The way the disc feels in my hand.
I think it's the quality of plastic.
It's unlike any other plastic that you'll find in the industry.
The quality is better than any other company out there.
Again, just consistent plastic. It's something I can consistently trust on every single throw.
There's so many discs to choose from, and I guarantee if you tried every disc in the lineup, you're gonna wanna put multiple discs in your bag.
It's extremely high quality. You can only say so much, they have to eventually just try it themselves and see.
moving into hole 7, 345-foot par 3 with all of this grass area playing as a hazard. So you have to get inside of the beautiful green that they've built up here onto those wood chips to be in bounds. And not much wind today, but with some wind, it can make this hole play pretty difficult.
Yeah, and I think a neat use of the hazard rule, where you're going to play your lie regardless of where you land it.
Yeah, and on a hole where for the most part you should have the MPO field able to reach this. As you see Robert trying to give it an ace run, hitting the stones. He's going to have himself a tap-in birdie there. Let's go ahead and take a look at that again.
A little bit more of an Anheuser release, drifting it all the way back and sticking right there on the foundation.
That's where I want to be on this hole.
Oh, unquestionably. I really like that Packard Park has tee shots that are pretty straightforward, but they leave a lot of creativity to the player. How do you want to throw it? There's this turnover by Ben. There's the low-driven shot by Calvin. Here's Ricky going to line up a forehand.
Yeah, and I'm a little surprised with the forehand. He's got tons of distance with it, but you see those flags in the back are slightly moving right to left, which makes it harder for the disc to fight back, but Ricky does it well as he just sneaks over that log.
And Heimburg sticking it high in the chains.
Gobble, gobble.
Yeah, don't get him started, folks. Ben Callaway from about 20 feet or so. Good flat putt.
In for a nice 2, Ricky Wysocki. Gonna drop in his 2 as well. And Robert Burridge. Gonna mark his, drop it in. We've got our first diamond of the round.
Hole 8, 580 feet, and that is not a misprint. This is a par 3. We're going to play downhill. The out of bounds down the entire left side. Right side is safe, but as you near the basket, it is pretty clunky in there. There's some out of bounds long as well as the green slopes away. Expect to see 4 backhand shots with a little bit of left to right movement initially. And this is going to run towards that left side. I don't like it very much.
It needs some grab to it.
Pin high does appear to have stayed safe. You need to test the wood line on the right at some point. Enthusiastic crowd. Robert gonna reset. Flat, low line drive. This is probably gonna grab in the grass. Does get a good skip though.
Yeah, it does get more skip than I expected it to get. Just a little more height on that. And I think he's going to be getting close to circle 1. Still into circle 2 right there, though, I believe.
Callaway, Heiser release, going to drift up, but this is going to run to the left side as well. We'll see the ground action.
Yeah, that's the type of flight that you want, if he can just get that a little bit farther right. But that is definitely the intended flight on this hole.
And with a little bit of a tailwind, Wysocki pulling it over to the right. I like
here
this
we
most. Swinging just inside the trees.
Oh, too much speed. And he is going to skip past the basket into the wood line and probably have a pretty difficult obstructed putt there.
Burridge making a good golf decision. Quickly lays up.
Calvin not into laying up so far today. Is going to end up a bit low, though.
It's a little treacherous behind the basket. There is a drop-off. And look at the rhythm in Callaway's backswing here. Just down to up. And that was always on the pole, Nathan.
Oh, you could tell he knew it immediately. As soon as he let go of it, he relaxed. You know, that's a good feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Well earned by Callaway. And this is a Ricky back here. You can see the bucket hat.
Yeah, looks like he's got to go over something. Oh, and he's going to make it as well. What a great putt from in the woods. You could tell that he was keeping his hand higher than he typically does.
But a good place to be a nose-down putter. Calvin and Robert both going to tap in pars. Nothing wrong with a par here on hole 8.
Oh, and there's the course cat popping up on hole 8. Brings us into hole 9. 305-foot par 3, slightly longer basket than in the past. There's the difference you can see right there is that red pin is the FPO pin. We're up there on this, again, foundation built for the basket. Nice Des Moines Challenge graphic there.
Callaway going to go buzz. He needs this to move from left to right throughout the flight. Does so very nicely. And as that OB pinches down, you don't really want to be going long of the basket.
And this is one of the few holes where the camera, you can tell that it's way uphill, but just in case we didn't mention it, this is extremely uphill off of the tee. You kind of got to check yourself when you're walking up it, just to make sure you have your balance right and don't slip out.
Yeah, little gradual later in the fairway, but you are pointed at the sky. Can't see the basket at all. Have to find a reference point up there. Calvin does stay in bounds. I think it's interesting that even with his power, he's choosing to go eagle there.
Yeah, just trust it on those straight lines, I think. And this is gonna, well, I mean, that probably came out a little early. Does end up flipping over nicely, though, so he's going to be inside circle 1 looking at a birdie.
Yeah. That's one you talk to your friends about in the parking lot afterwards and say, man, I got away with one.
Yeah, you know that tree on 9?
And Calvin is going to close out his front 9 at 4 under. You see he's tied for 24th at this time. So making a decent push, especially with a kind of slow start through 4.
Yeah, definitely a slow start. And Robert going to be upset with that missed opportunity there. When you got to capitalize when you get a mistake that works out like that. Has been. Everybody's hungry today. We got another turkey on the card.
Mm-hmm. And Wysocki for something that should be pretty elementary here. Right back to his feet.
Man.
That's very frustrating to watch, and certainly for Rick as a competitor.
Well, I agree that shouldn't happen. However, it was pretty stiff. You know, he didn't take his time. That was pretty stiff putt for 12 feet.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree it shouldn't happen. Look at this. Our card is 4 down.
I don't know if I've ever seen this before.
got a bunch of 4s there.
A lot of different ways to get there. And a couple 11s right now, setting the pace for the field.
Yeah, everybody coming in hot like we've seen throughout the year. Lots of tight scores. Wrapping up the front 9 here. We hope you come out and join us for the back 9 here at Packard Park. For Andrew Fish, I'm Nathan Queen, and we'll see you guys out there.